Ahoy good folks, Craig signing in for Pure Xbox to bring you our review of Marvel's Midnight Suns. This was originally written by the wickedly talented PJ O'Reilly and adapted into video form by, well, me. Let's jump right into it. There aren't many more reliable development teams than Firaxis when it comes to serving up top-notch turn-based tactical action. And with Marvel's Midnight Suns, the Baltimore-based studio continues to deliver the good stuff. Here they've avoided a simple superhero reskin of their superlative XCOM series in favor of strategic hijinks that work card game dynamics into the mix, making for a unique and highly enjoyable comic book adventure. Yes, the easy road to take, and a road we would have quite happily traveled, would have been to copy and paste a bunch of Marvel heroes and lore onto the bones of XCOM 2 and just call it a day. But instead, Firaxis has seamlessly woven slick card battling into proceedings, and the result is a game that's an absolute repulsor blast from start to finish. There's a ton of cool card powers to tool around with here, and they combine perfectly with deep turn-based strategy that remains very much in the XCOM style, with players required to carefully consider their attacks and positioning, always thinking a few moves ahead in order to successfully take down some impressively intelligent foes. The story in Marvel's Midnight Suns sees you assume control of the Hunter, a newly resurrected superhero and estranged child of the game's main villain.
Gozer?
Lilith, mother of demons, harbinger of the Midnight Sun.
Lilith has been brought back to life by Dr. Faustus and is now busy wreaking havoc with an army of Hydra goons. After a quick whip around a fairly generic character creation suite, you're whisked off to the game's main hub area, the Abbey, where various characters from the Avengers, Midnight Suns, X-Men, and Marvel's Runaways are ready and waiting to team up to go defeat Lilith, Hydra, and a bunch of other surprising baddies that we're just frankly not going to spoil for you. Fans of XCOM will feel right at home with this one. There's just as many upgradable bits and bobs as we've come to expect from Firaxis games, with a ton of upgradable powers at your disposal, 13 superheroes in total, and lots of new tech and expansions to research and develop at your base in time-honored XCOM tradition. In between missions, you're given free reign to roam around the Abbey, exploring the grounds and surrounding areas, finding secrets and collectibles, digging into the lore of the various franchises that make up the game's roster of heroes, and, most importantly, building relationships with your team through conversations. It's in these conversations that you get to make some simple dialogue choices that affect how others view you, as well as which path, dark or light, your version of the Hunter takes through the narrative. All of this stuff could so easily have been an albatross around the neck of the strategic action at the core of Midnight Suns. This is a game that's just not afraid to take lengthy timeouts from its battles in favor of conversations, were it not for the fact it's all so well written and likable. Yeah, as much as we sometimes wished we were being flung into missions a little quicker now and then, especially in the early hours of the game when it's just finding its feet, you can't help but be utterly charmed and impressed by how much thought and care has obviously gone into the characterizations and storyline here. Full of jokes, quips, and references to all sorts of Marvel history that fans will be sure to get a big kick out of. Of course, helping the likes of Blade out with his love life isn't just about making pals because you want to look cool hanging out with a badass vampire slayer, although we really do just want to hang out with him. And all of the stuff feeds directly into combat, with positive relationships leading to card-based boosts for the heroes in question when it comes time to dust off against a bunch of baddies. It pays to consider your choices in conversations, listen to your colleagues, and spend time watching movies, paddling in the pool, and painting landscapes with them, even if the dialogue does go on a bit from time to time. So in terms of exploration, characterization, and the narrative at hand, Marvel's Midnight Suns is onto a winner. But what about combat? Well, although we fully recognize that the inherently random nature of the card battling system may be kryptonite to some hardcore strategy fans who want everything 100% under their control, we absolutely adore what Firaxis has served up for us here. And once you get into its groove, you'll find a deeply satisfying tactical effort awaits. At its heart, and in terms of the general ebb and flow of battles, it's all very much in the same vein as XCOM. You'll need to carefully consider enemy positions and your surroundings whilst thinking ahead in order to defeat foes who will punish you severely for slip-ups. You get to play 3 cards from your deck per turn by default, but by choosing carefully you can easily bump this number up significantly, gaining free turns for knocking out foes and thinking tactically to ensure you squeeze every opportunity to inflict damage that you can out of the cards that you're dealt. You can also redraw a certain number of cards per turn, so there's always a chance to pull something better out of the bag if you don't like what you've currently got to work with. It pays to survey the playing field carefully too, looking out for interactive objects you can use without taking up an attack turn to smash your enemies, hurling barrels and crates, or kicking an opponent into a position where you can, for example, dump the contents of a huge crane on top of their heads. It can be tough stuff at times, just as in XCOM. The enemies here are no pushover, even on the default difficulty. But there's also a refreshing levity injected into the battles by the non-stop banter from your squad mates, as well as the OTT superhero powers you wield through your cards, that makes for a strategy effort that delivers the goods in terms of a challenge whilst also feeling refreshingly fast-paced, flashy, and fun to boot. It also manages to do away with some of our long-held frustrations with XCOM, with much less in the way of unfair defeats or those annoying whiffed shots that give you a 99% chance of hitting a target before missing completely and landing you in a whole heap of bother. Yes, we said it, in some ways Marvel's Midnight Suns is even better than our beloved XCOM 2. We absolutely love the cast of characters that have been pulled together here too, with the likes of Wolverine, Iron Man, Spidey, Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, Captain Marvel, and Blade, all arriving with a ton of cool powers to burn through in battles. We weren't 100% sure on how the Marvel Universe was going to fit into this type of strategy game, but as it turns out, in the hands of Firaxis at least, it's a match made in heaven, and blasting through confrontations with a bunch of your favorite superheroes in tow just never gets old. We're already dreaming about the possibilities for lots of future DLC. Everything looks suitably spectacular when battles kick off here as well, and although the character models aren't exactly going to give the Callisto Protocol any sleepless nights, the choreography and animation in the moves that your roster of superheroes can pull off is satisfyingly flashy stuff. Spider-Man whips around battlefields binding up foes, unleashing web attacks and acrobatic kicks. Iron Man hovers above the action, raining down swarms of homing missiles and laser blasts, while Hulk, well, Hulk smash! There's plenty of great big explosions and action-packed cutscenes to bookend missions, and the whole thing is as colorful and bombastic as a game about comic book characters ought to be. In terms of performance, there are a few stutters here and there from time to time as you explore the Abbey, and you'll occasionally have to sit through a longish pause between turns in battle as the AI calculates its next move. Although we didn't come across any as egregious as those found in XCOM 2 when it first released. But apart from this, it's all plain sailing, and we didn't encounter any bugs, crashes, or other issues during our playthrough. With a campaign that will run you close to 50 hours, a new game plus mode that's unlocked when you're done with your first run, and a ton of collectibles, lore, and customization options to hoover up between missions, Marvel's Midnight Suns is a great big meaty delight of a game, a fantastic twist on the XCOM formula, and an absolute banger from a dev team that just doesn't seem to be able to put a foot wrong. This one comes highly recommended. Marvel's Midnight Suns takes the delightfully deep turn-based tactics of Firaxis' sublime XCOM franchise and adds a slick card battling system to fantastic effect. This is a highly satisfying slice of strategy action, a love letter to all things Marvel that's absolutely dripping in personality, and an adventure that we can see ourselves blasting through multiple times in the months ahead. With a generous main campaign, unlockable new game plus mode, and a ton of collectibles and customization to boot, this one's arrived right at the tail end of 2022 and jumped straight into the upper echelons of our list of the very best games of the year. And there we have our review of Marvel's Midnight Suns. Be sure to comment with whether or not you agree with the review, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Xbox. As for now, Craig signing off.